Hey, it is Michael Healy here. How the heck are you? I go by Mike, obviously, but wanted to thank you if you're going to be jumping on here to view this, or maybe you're watching this as it's been recorded. And what I wanted to go over is some pretty crazy stuff, to say the least, and I'll tell you why. Is there are some pretty incredible prophetic things that I have started seeing or studying that have really got my mind kind of on tilt in some areas. And I just kind of was thinking about it and thought that maybe I would throw this out there to everybody else if they could, to maybe maybe help out with some of this research and kind of look at this stuff. Okay, so pretty awesome information that I'm about to share with you. Now you're probably going to be drinking from a fire hose as I get into this thing and kind of go and roll with it, but I'm sure you can follow along, and you might want to even watch the recording. Now the other thing I'm going to tell you too is some of the things that I have studied, some of the people that have really gone into some deep understanding of these things. I'm going to post some of their links after this video, after I've recorded this and it's live on my page again, so that you can go back and look at it yourself and kind of see if you see the things that I've seen. So anyhow, hey, if you're joining me, if you're new on here, don't hesitate to let me know who you are, where you're from. Basically, I would see your name, obviously, but in the comments below, feel free to put your city and state, because I always find that kind of interesting to find out where people are viewing from. Even if you're out of country too, if you're out of the United States, make sure you put on there that you're out of the United States. So that'd be kind of cool too. But I know I told everybody I was going to jump on this and start this thing at 7 o'clock. So I think I'm right about there. So I like to start pretty much on time. I'm one of those guys that believes in being punctual, being respectful of people's time and energy. This is no different. So what I want to do is I'm going to jump into this and give you kind of a quick understanding. Now I'm going to be referencing, I'm going to look over here at my computer, and I'm going to see, I'm going to basically be going over some notes that I did. I'd say I probably took about 3 hours today going through some of the other videos that I watched previously to try to pull out some of these bullet points, because they're really cool. It just kind of gets your mind thinking on those things. Now, first and foremost, everything that I base everything on comes out of the Bible, and you can see this one's pretty beat up. Okay, this is my Bible's 20 years old. It's got, I use it. I kind of go through it. I do believe in it, so that helps, obviously. And my background was coming out of the bar business, so I was pretty rough around the edges. And anyhow, but what's really cool about some of the stuff I'm going to show you is stuff that has that you can look up, that's not, that we would kind of consider it secular. It's not Christian based or anything like that, or it's science. It's some of the stuff that you can look at that's pretty remarkable. Okay, so now let me just real quick give you a heads up on how I got started with some of this stuff. So back I've been I think I had basically been following the Bible and things like that for on a regular basis for about 20 years, but previously just kind of dabbled in it. I've always been fascinated with the prophetic word of stuff, Bible prophecy per se, not just prophetic word, but Bible prophecy, and wondering if there were any things that could actually prove the Bible out and stuff like that. And understand, hey, if you're a Christian, we're the craziest people on the planet probably, because we, you have to kind of believe some of the strangest things you could think of. People being raised from the dead, fighting giants, rivers parting, floods, all kinds of cool, crazy things. Okay, so just follow me on this. But some of this stuff you can actually point to, and science does eventually prove some of this stuff out, and that's what I want to talk to you about. So I want to start here, okay, because I'm going to jump right into this, and it actually starts at the very first part of the Bible. I know that's flipped over in Facebook. I don't know why they haven't fixed that yet, but about what I'm going to share with you is I'm going to talk to you about some signs, okay, specifically some things that are happening on the earth and in the stars, kind of the constellation, that are really mind-blowing when you see these things, of how exact they are and the timing and everything. It's just kind of, it's almost like it's almost like this can't be a coincidence. That's the way I look at it. It's just like it just can't be a coincidence. Okay, so let me start here with this one, and I'm talking about the constellation, and I'm talking about I'll be talking just briefly a little bit about some of the astrological signs. not astrology. This is not predicting your future with that, because that's not something I believe in. But I'm talking about astrology, the study of the signs, the signs in the heaven, okay? And they're all mathematically, charted out and stuff like that. And I'll give you some references onto that you'll find really fascinating, okay? So let's start here in the first chapter of the Bible. Basically, this is going through it, and it says, it says in chapter, I think it's in 14, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. It says, "And God said, let bright lights appear in the heaven, in the sky, to separate the day from the night." Okay, and they will be, and let them serve as signs and markers. Okay, for sacred times and days and years. Okay, and that's kind of something to think about. So God Himself said that He was going to create signs like the sun, moon, stars, things like that, constellation, that He can actually use and put into the prophetic word, that you can point to, that you can learn and you can get some stuff on. And to give you some exact proof on that, if you remember, everybody looks at, most people are familiar with Christmas, right? Christmas and the Bethlehem star, right? The star that the wise men saw. What you might not understand is that star was actually showed up approximately 2 years previous to the actual birth of Jesus. I know that there's some cool cartoons out there and some of the history stuff out there, but if you actually really study the word for exactly what it means and what it says, you're going to see that the wise men saw this sign, then left on their journey, went through the Israel and so on, and ran into Herod and things like that. And Herod, when he had found out that they were following a sign, that there was this king that was supposed to come and rule, he obviously didn't want to lose his throne. He had all the children killed that were 2 years old and younger. Well, there's a reason for that, okay? Because that sign was predicted a long time ago. And there's plenty of religions, there's plenty of societies that have been very good at tracking the astrological signs and things in the stars in the heavens. Okay. The other thing too that this was going to Jesus too is during the crucifixion of Jesus Himself, there was a solar eclipse, and this is going to mean something to you as I get going with this, because this is cool stuff. There was a solar eclipse that happened. So we're talking in the middle of, basically in the morning, mid-afternoon, when Jesus finally gave up the ghost, is what they say. When he died on the cross, there was this solar eclipse and major earthquakes happened. Okay, some other cool stuff if you look it up in there. Now, also, almost all Jewish holidays are marked and tracked by the constellation. They're basically the sun and the moon. Basically their harvests, when certain things happen and so on, and that's how it all works. Okay, so let me so that's what I wanted to talk to you about there. Now I want to jump in, and I got some of these marks so I can make it a little easier on myself to show you this. And if you're a fan of Bible prophecy, maybe put a 1 down underneath in the comment section down here. Because I'm kind of curious to see, or maybe put a 2 in there if you could care less about it or whatever. But I'm probably hoping for some 1s. But here's what's cool is in Luke. So you've got the New Testament, you've got the Old Testament and the New Testament. You got Matthew, Mark, and Luke and John were written by the apostles. And in Luke 21. In verse 25, this is Jesus's word. These are Jesus's words. This is him speaking, and he says there will be strange events in the skies, signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and down here on earth the nations will be in turmoil, perplexed. Okay, but let me stop there. I forgot to go back. This was actually the disciples actually took him aside after they were done some ministering. And some of his disciples began talking to him and said, "Hey, we've been hearing about the second coming, the time of the end, and so on. What are some signs?" Okay, and understand that the Jews always looked for signs. They really wanted proof that these things were happening. They were very religious in what they did, and they were very strict and so on. So they asked him. So Jesus basically came out in verse 25. This is him speaking. "And there'll be strange events in the sky, signs in the sun, moon, and star, and down here on earth the nations will be in turmoil, perplexed by the roaring seas and strange tides." Now I want you to kind of put that in the back of your head or in the back of your mind of perplexed by the roaring seas and strange tides, because I always wondered what the heck that meant, okay? And then it says the courage of many people will falter because of the fearful fate they see coming upon the earth, because the stability of the very heavens will be broken up. Think about that one. The stability of the very heavens will be broken up, then everyone will see the Son of Man arriving in the clouds, power of the angels. Okay, so that's a kind of cool one right there. And then I'm going to go to actually I didn't have that one marked. I got it written down on my notes here. So that was out of Matthew in Luke. In Matthew 24, it says you're going to hear of wars, rumors of wars. See to it that you're not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still not to come. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Famines, earthquakes in various places, all these things will be the beginning of birth pains. Okay, so this is another book of similar thing happening. And then in 2 Timothy, and then I'm going to get to some of the cool stuff that I hope you'll hang with me on, because if you see some of these things, it's just going to go boom. In 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 5, it says, "Mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days." And tell me if this doesn't sound familiar in what we're seeing right now across the globe, especially in the United States. In the last days, people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power, have nothing to do with such people. Okay, so I wanted to give you this little foundation of that Jesus was talking about the end times. The disciples were asking about it. Most people throughout all of the history are always curious about this. So let's get to some of these crazy things that are not in the distant future, but they are literally about to occur in the next few weeks. And you can look them up on Google. You can look them up on some things I will give you that will probably kind of at least get you thinking. That's kind of the whole purpose of why I do some of these things, is not to go to convince you one way or another, but to get you to think outside the box. Okay, so here's the first one I want to talk to you about, and it's going to get bigger and build on more stuff. Is in the Jewish calendar, they have their own Hebrew calendar, right? That they track everything. And understand that God's timepiece is basically on Jerusalem. And it's not an accident if you look at all of the adversity. It's throughout the Bible that all the nations are going to come against Israel. That's always been a hotbed of craziness. And it's like the size of a booger, okay? Not to be blunt, but it is like this tiny on the map. And it's surrounded by all these nations that hate it and want to destroy it. But somehow it's still surviving, okay? But let me get back to their calendar. This year in their calendar is the year 5777 on the Jewish or Hebrew calendar, okay? Now what's amazing about this is the number 5. The number 5 actually stands for grace. And something you may or may not know, that every letter in the Hebrew alphabet actually has a correlating number that goes with it. Can't think of the name, what they call that, grammatia or something like that. It'll pop in my head again. But anyhow, but here's the other thing. So the year 5777, it also, the number 7 is significant. It means God's number, but 777 means triple completion. Triple completion. Now, here's something. That this solar eclipse, there's a solar eclipse that is actually about to happen on this month, August the 21st, 2017. So as I'm talking to you about this month, in just a couple weeks, when I'm recording this is the 26th, so we're literally a few weeks away from this, that there is going to be the first solar eclipse that's happened that went across the United States, that crossed the United States since I believe it's 1918. Okay, I got it right. Yeah, 1918, and I'll get to some notes I have on that. Now, here's something funny that's kind of weird, that the temperature of the sun is actually 5,778 Kelvin. Kelvin is like a multiplied Celsius. It's that hot. It's like really, really hot. Okay, not burn your hand on the stove hot. I'm talking all existing life is terminated because of the heat. 5,778. and here's, I got to keep referencing these notes because they're just spectacular. On the day of this eclipse, at the time, okay, so here's this. So this eclipse is going to come in and enter the United States, and at the time of 17 and 16 minutes, 17 hours, 16 minutes, UT, Universal Time, that this eclipse is going to happen. It is the exact same time to the minute that in Jerusalem, in Israel, that there is going to be the sunset. Now in Israel, a day begins at sunset, and that actually begins the last month of their year. Okay, and I wait till I get to the September 23rd stuff, and it's this. When you add all this together, your mind's going to go boom. It's going to be crazy. Okay, so check this out. So the exact time that the sun in the day goes dark in the United States, a sunset happens in Israel to the minute. Okay, that's pretty bizarre. Which starts then the brand new month of Elul. Okay, in the Hebrew calendar, the month of Elul, which is actually an Akkadian word for harvest. Okay, now I want to throw this out as a preface too. I am not predicting in my video here or talking that that the rapture's happening on September 23rd or August 21st or anything like that. Just throwing this out there so you can do your own research, come up with your own ideas. But think about how weird that is. The temperature of the sun, and by the way, the sun is 400 times larger than the Earth, and the Earth is the moon is like 400 times farther away than the sun is, or something like that. It's like these perfect things, and it's just crazy. Okay, now here's something. Okay, so we're about to get into some crazy stuff. Okay, so when this eclipse happens, when this total solar eclipse happens across the United States, it's going to start in the northwest corner of the U.S. up by Washington, and it is going to travel along a diagonal path. And you can look all this up on Google. You don't have to look in the Bible for this. This is all shown in exactly. They call it the Path of Totality. Okay, the Path of Totality. This eclipse, though, here's what I want to kind of shake you or get you thinking about. The moon, a lot of times always, the moon, you'll know that the moon helps things with, what do you call it, the tides, the ocean tides, rising, falling, things like that. A lot of times gravity can be affected slightly because of the moon being a certain distance and so on. Okay, that's scientific fact. But here's what's weird. Okay, and I'm not saying that the United States is coming under judgment. Okay, I'm not saying that this is God's punishment or anything like that. And I'll give you some other stuff to go along with this. But follow me on this because this gets cool. As the sun goes from the top left corner of the United States, if you're looking at the map, and travels diagonally across it, it is going to cross to a T exactly the three major fault lines of earthquake zones in the United States. The Cascadia, which is up in the northwest area of the United States, which Fox News just recently did something on the significance of these major earthquakes in that area. It'll travel a little farther. It'll come across the Yellowstone area, which is where Yellowstone National Park is. And most people, if you've been watching, and I get fascinated with some of this stuff, earthquake predictions and so on. If you look at the earthquake globes maps, you can find these on Google. You can find software online that'll actually show you all the earthquakes, the depth, the amount, and so on. There has been a significant, by the hundreds, increase in volcanic activity and underground earthquakes happening around Yellowstone. And as the sun travels across the United States, it goes over into the thing called the New Madrid. Now, the New Madrid is kind of in the Midwest, down there kind of in the middle, in the heartland of the United States. So we're talking about a significant solar eclipse that's going through three of the most significant fault lines in the United States. Okay, now that's some crazy stuff. Now here's something to think about, and here's back to my notes over here. The sun is actually a sign. It's always been a sign to what they call the Gentiles, not the Jewish people. The moon because the moon's smaller, has been geared towards a smaller nation, towards Israel, okay? The moon is a sign of the Jews. Now the problem we may have here, and something to consider, is a solar eclipse seems to typically be a warning of judgment on Gentiles, okay? So this is kind of some crazy stuff, okay? Now, like I said earlier, the last solar eclipse to cross the U.S. was in 1918. Now, did anything significant happen in 1918 that was kind of catastrophic? Well, actually, it was just previous to that. World War I started, and right around that same time, the United States actually was hit with a flu pandemic, a few earthquakes, but the flu pandemic actually killed over 675,000 people in the United States and a few million people worldwide as that spread, okay? Now understand that God does not go around clobbering people on the head and demanding judgment and so on, okay? The Bible clearly says that Jesus came that I might have life and have it more abundantly. God says that I gave my son so that you might have life, not that you will punish people. However, think closely here, is you can, or a nation can, reject God and his hand of protection be lifted off of that. And people reap what they sow. Now, there are plenty of situations and things you can look at in history where people were spared versus people that kind of just gave it to the wayside and kind of things happen, okay? So we're going to go back. I'm going to give you a quick summary, and then I want to go on to something even more mind-boggling, and you can put all these things together. And like I said, I'm going to give you some references probably down below the video or maybe in the section here at the top that you can look this up. So we've got a total solar eclipse happening in a few weeks on August the 21st that will go across the Cascadia, the Yellowstone, and the New Madrid, which are the major fault line and earthquake things. Now, do you think, now just real quick, because most of you that are watching this are my age or probably close to it, remember 9/11, okay? Now, 9/11, there was a few things that happened that were significant in 9/11. Obviously, some major things happened. But if you remember what happened immediately following this significant rattling of everyone's comfort levels in the United States, the churches were flooded with people that went to church, looking for solace, looking for peace, looking for answers, and so on. And literally within a few weeks, the churches were back to their, the low numbers, right? I'm not saying that is going to happen, but if you were God and you had to kind of wake people up, or people kept rejecting you and some significant things happen, earthquakes, famines, plagues, meteor showers, whatever, might get people's attention so that you kind of start paying more attention to these things. Now, you're ready to have your mind blown, okay? This one is really what got me going on this, okay? Because I've read Revelation, okay? We all know about the book of Revelation, okay? And most of the time it's the book of Revelation is really just the topic of scary stuff. It's the boogeyman of the Bible, right? Revelation is kind of the boogeyman of the Bible because of the media and because of what Hollywood's predicted it. And, hey, I've been a big fan of Iron Maiden for a long time, and you got the number of the beast going on and, and all that stuff. But I'm going to read you something, and this one you're going to have to look up yourself because it is spectacular when you get all of the details of what's really, really going on in the heavens, like I'd mentioned earlier. Okay, this one comes out of Revelation 12, and it's going to start with verse 1 of that. It says, "Then I witnessed in heaven an event of great significance." Okay, so before I keep going, Revelation was written by the Apostle John, who was banished to Patmos. Patmos was a prison island. You couldn't get off of it. They boated you there, and you were shipwrecked on there, and that's where you existed. During this time, the Lord came and visited him, and gave him this whole book, this whole things to write down, which basically brought the beginning, middle, and end of the entire everything from the beginning, Alpha and Omega, is written in Revelation. Like, it goes through the churches. This is where you hear about the judgments, the trumpets, the plagues, the things like this. The good news is at the end that God wins, that the devil's defeated. That's the premise of it, okay? And understand that's what the whole Bible is supposed to be about. It's not about you being defeated. It's about you having victory on this planet while we're here until we get to go to heaven, okay? Now, let me throw this out at you. So back to Revelation chapter 12. Then I witnessed in heaven an event of great significance. I saw a woman clothed with the sun. Okay, so follow me on these analogies, okay? Or these specific signs in the constellation. I witnessed in heaven an event of great significance. Okay, heaven being not just heaven where Jesus is or God's at, but heavens being the stars. I saw a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon beneath her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. Okay? I saw a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon beneath her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. And then here's another one. It kind of goes on. It says she was pregnant, and she cried out in the pain of labor as I was waited her delivery. And I want to read a little bit more of this, and then I got the notes to break this down and give you the boom moments, okay? Suddenly I witnessed in heaven another great significant event. I saw a large red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 crowns on his head, and his tail dragged down 1/3 of the stars which he threw to the earth. Now, when you see a shooting star in heaven, it's typically what? It's a comet. Stars typically, a star is not going to necessarily fall to the earth because most stars are like 1,000 times bigger than the earth and they just blow us out of the region, right? But it said his tail dragged down 1/3 of the stars, which he threw to the earth. He stood before the woman as she was about to give birth to her child, ready to devour the baby as soon as it was born. Okay, and I'm going to go a little bit farther. And it said, and the child was snatched away from the dragon, and the dragon was caught to God and his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness where God had prepared a place to give her care for 1,260 days. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, okay? So you've got this weird picture. Okay, geez Louise, let's have the Bible give us some more weirdness so we can try to figure this out, okay? But some of this stuff is fascinating. So get this, all right? So I read this for a purpose. On September 23rd of 2017, so we're literally just a few more weeks farther than our eclipse, our solar eclipse, the constellation Virgo, which is a woman in the constellation terms, will exactly have the sun above her head. Okay, if you look at the constellations and you like that, and on my phone, I'm actually using my phone on there, but I have a really cool app on there. And you can look up these apps where you can take and point to the sky and it will track the constellations for you. It's really neat to see all that. But the constellation Virgo will have the sun above her head and the moon at her feet. But here's where it gets interesting. Leo is the constellation directly above the head. Okay, if you're looking at the constellation, you got the head of the woman here, then her body, and so on, and then above it is the constellation Leo. Leo only has 9 stars in its constellation, but on the 23rd, get this, on the 23rd of September, Mercury, Mars, and Venus are actually going to all enter the constellation right by Leo above the woman's head, which would create 12 stars in a perfect crown above her head. Now this is actually, now here's the thing. You can look this up on a free software, an open source platform software called Stellarium, if you don't believe me, and you can look it up for yourself, okay? And you can put on there the dates of any date. And because they're all mathematically precise of how the constellations work, you can run back 10 days, 10,000, 10 years, 1,000 years in history before and after. Here's what's so incredible. Never before in history, and they say that the only time they can even think that this constellation may have come close to coming together like this was almost 7,000 years ago, which would basically, if you follow the actual genealogy in here, it would be Adam and Eve, okay? But it's never happened before, and if you fast forward on the constellation, the Stellarium constellation, another 1,000 years, it doesn't even show up again. This is the only time that anybody, a lot of these scholars, a lot of these Bible prophecy guys, and most of these people that have nothing to do with Christianity, Bible, they could care less, and a lot of these guys that are atheists, but they're really smart, are kind of at a standstill of weirdness due to the fact that it's never happened before. Now, if you think about this, here's the other thing. It says in the same scripture right there, I said, with the moon beneath her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head, she was pregnant. and she cried out in pain of labor as awaited her little delivery. The largest star that we see, the largest planet that we see in our solar system is actually Jupiter. Jupiter has actually been labeled the king planet. And what's crazy is the king planet had entered the womb area of the constellation Virgo. Take a guess if you look from September 23rd and go back 9 months, an exact human gestation period, you will see that constellation that Jupiter entered the womb of Virgo at that point, and right around that exact time it's going to be exiting. And I was like, get out of here. I mean, I've watched probably 10 different guys that I've looked up, and I'm going to post, like I said, I'm going to post links to some YouTube videos that you can watch these guys give you even more detail. That it's just mind-boggling. But it says that it's been in there exactly. Now, here's something kind of crazy. If you actually go back 8 months from it, and in biblical terms, a lot of people say that the number 8 represents a new beginning. 8 months from the 23rd or 21st, in the same time that birthing happens, was the new president, Trump, got into office. So that's just another part of this weirdness. Oh, and by the way, as this happens, this is actually also going to be the beginning of the Feast of Trumpets. The Feast of Trumpets. The Feast of Trumpets in the Jewish calendar, okay? Now, let's give you some more weirdness, because this is just fascinating stuff to me. And my wife asked me, Stacy asked me, why I wanted to do something like this, and I was like, you know what? I've noticed that people are more open to talk about Bible prophecy than about religion and everything like that, because it's fascinating and you can actually point to stuff. And God himself put these things in place so that you can actually point to things. Okay, so it's kind of cool. But I want to go back a little bit in history real quick, a couple years ago, that on April 14th, 2015, there was a thing that began called the 4 blood moons, and you can look these up as well. And the 4 blood moons were basically this really strange, hasn't happened in a long time, string of eclipses, okay, lunar eclipses, that they were called red blood moons because they had literally the moons changed, looked blood red based on how they were and where they are, that were happening to do with Israel. Okay, so it's pretty crazy how that happened. But do you remember when I read in Revelations 12 about, and down here in chapter 12 verse 6, it said, and the woman fled in the wilderness where God had prepared a place to give her care for 1260 days. The very first blood moon happened on April 14th, and you actually fast forward 1,260 days. That's actually the beginning right around the, I think it's September 20th, 21st, which is the time frame of this new Jewish, switching calendars kind of thing that is the Feast of Trumpets. The Feast of Trumpets is happening. Okay, so let me go back now. So that's kind of weird. That you had the 4 blood moons prophesying that. Now, here's what I wanted to point out. That was 2 years ago, okay? Right when I started this video, I talked about Jesus having some significant signs that happened during his birth, right? That there was something significant happened, but like I mentioned, though, it was they saw these signs 2 years previous, before this major significant Bible prophecy came to be of the birth of Christ. They saw the signs in the heaven of the Star of Bethlehem, and it was 2 years later when they had the birth of Christ. If you actually go back in time from the birth of Christ, you go back in time like a few thousand years or whatever, like on a certain date, and you can look in one of the videos. That's actually when Abraham had this promise given to him from God. Anyhow, let me stay on track because there's a lot of rabbit trails we could take here. But I want to get back to September 23rd. There's also this is something that might help make this make sense too, because I read the woman with clothed at the sun, moon and beneath her feet, crown of 12 stars, which is all happening on September 23rd. Now we won't. What's going to happen too is pretty significant and odd. Is that constellation is going to be fully lit up. You won't be able to see it, but it's going to be fully lit up at its completion at exactly the right time over Israel. Like if you're in Israel and you're looking up, that's exactly the time frame when the sun is right there, the moon, all these things are aligned in perfectly in order. But here's what I wanted to talk about. She gave birth, where did it go? Here it is. I saw a large red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns with crowns on his head. His tail dragged down 1/3 of the stars, which he threw to the earth, like I mentioned a second ago. Stars could also represent, or not stars literally being thrown to heaven or thrown to the earth, but we see when a meteor goes through, meteor showers and so on there, we call them falling stars. This one's crazy. Here's another one just to add on top of this quagmire of funness. On September 23rd, when all those stars align, there's also a comet that will actually conjoin at the same time on this moon. Okay? Check this out. A European team of researchers sent a probe to this comet 12 years ago to study it, and they named it 67P. Okay, 67P, and called it like a Jupiter family. 67, actually, if you don't know about that, the significance of the number of the year 1967 is when Israel was declared a nation in that short period of time, basically became a free nation again. This is 50 years exactly from the time that Israel became a nation to when this is happening. This comet is showing up again. I mean, this stuff is just kind of crazy to think about when you go on here. Now, if you think about that, here's the thing though. Look at the Earth as this globe, right? Get the round Earth. Over here at the United States, in Israel, September 23rd, when all these constellations exactly happen, that the Earth will be positioned to this side. That I did see on one of the YouTube videos, a guy was basically predicting the travel pattern of this comet. That he believed that on the western side of the Earth, the world, which is the United States, we will probably get hammered or pelted by this comet's debris because of the closeness that's traveling through here. That will be coming through here. So, if you think about this, you got okay. So I want to, because I know I've been on here for a while here, about a half an hour or so, maybe 40 minutes. But if you think about this, to go back where I started with what we're showing, we've got on August the 21st, 2017, a couple weeks from now, from the time of putting this video together, you've got a total solar eclipse. Solar eclipses usually meant judgment or something that was pretty significant that happened throughout the countries, especially the Gentile nations. This same solar eclipse is a travel pattern, exactly where this solar eclipse is going to go, is completely diagonal across the United States over the 3 largest fault lines in the United States, the Cascadia, the Yellowstone, and the New Madrid. Ironically, 7 years later from September 23rd, there will be another solar eclipse that will go across the United States, and if you were to pattern them, basically they go like this. This one will travel this way. The 7 year later one will go this way. This one currently is going to go this way. And that pinpoint right there is actually the New Madrid as well. Okay. Now there are a lot of people out there that have put some stuff online about what would happen if there was a significant New Madrid earthquake, of how significant it could be, that it could split the United States physically, that it could widen the Mississippi River, the Ohio and the Mississippi where they collide could really be damaged, could be really significant. And there's maps out there. There's FEMA maps you can actually look up of predictions of what would happen. But I also saw there was something else I read that people would be perplexed at the roaring of the seas, right? If you think about it, if there's some major significant biblical things happen, earthquakes, and you've got meteor showers, and the moon and so on is messing with a little bit of the kind of the gravitational pull in the seas. You're looking at some significant things that could literally tilt the way the tides roll, the tides come in, the height of the water, and so on. Like, I've actually seen some things. These aren't biblical guys. These are definitely not Christian guys that have been talking about some of the things that they've been tracking out in the solar system, that the Earth actually could be potentially, due to the comet and due to some other solar stuff going on, could be slightly tilting the axis of the equators. I'm sorry, the equator's in the middle, but I'm talking about the North Pole, South Pole. And if they're tilted slightly, if you think about the Earth as it spins, right? The Earth is spinning. The push of the gravity up at the top and the bottom is less than it would be in the center, right? So if you look about it, if you spin something, centrifugal force on the farthest outside parts is where the water is kind of really pushed the farthest, right? Well, if you tilted something on that axis would then make those water lines, and the centrifugal force of where that water was being pushed out towards could shift dramatically. And I've seen maps out there that show flooding across the east coast of the United States, some portions of Florida completely disappearing, going up in there. And you can look some of this stuff up. I mean, it's really, really bizarre. But I wanted to kind of talk about this because this is, and the Bible says that the Lord has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. It says also that to look up, that your redemption draweth nigh. Now, if you look, that scripture keeps popping into my head recently about looking up. If you walk down the street, you go to a store, you go everywhere, what are most people these days doing? They are looking down. They are looking at their phones. You might even be looking down right now watching this. That's cool. You can watch this. But most people are not looking up. It says look up, your redemption draweth near. It doesn't say look down, your redemption. It says look up, okay? There's some other crazy biblical things that are happening, Bible prophecies coming to play, or things that really, really seem like they're fitting into Revelation. I just saw that there were people, you've heard of people talking about the number of the beast and the mark of the beast and all that stuff. They just had a chip implanting party recently. That's all over the news, that people actually put chips in their hands to track all their statistics. You couldn't have done that in any time in the history of mankind from Adam and Eve to now unless you had the current technology that we have today. It says that in I think it was in the book of Daniel, it says, in the latter days knowledge shall be increased. We have never seen such a massive burst of information as we have seen in the last probably 75 years. Understand that since Adam and Eve till about 100 years ago, the fastest form of transportation was a horse. Now we've got stuff traveling to Mars, Venus, flying out of the solar system. We've got that. You've got other scriptures that talk about there will be, Jesus said that there will be wars and rumors of wars, but not to be perplexed, not to be crazy about this stuff. If you look at what's going on with North Korea currently, Iran, Syria, and so on, and understand there was a lot of things written in the Bible about Damascus. The Apostle Paul was on the road to Damascus. He was there persecuting Christians. He was the number one guy. He said he was the worst guy out there going after Christians, attacking them, and so on. And he was saved on the road to Damascus. Understand that God is God. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, so that whoever believed or called on the name of Jesus would be saved. Okay, there's some other scriptures out there. There's another one out there, because I wanted to throw this out there just to get people thinking, because I think sometimes with all the stuff that goes on and all of the technology out there, that we can be lulled to sleep. We can be lulled to sleep, and sometimes that's the best time for the enemy to pounce on people, is when you feel like all is well, And I'm not saying you got to walk around in fear and things like that, but if you look at the things I just pointed out and you do your own due diligence, look at this solar eclipse coming on August the 21st, going across the fault lines, and then you look at it just a few weeks later. I think it's 33 days later, which is another significant number. And I almost had it Grammachia or something like that. The numbers and biblical stuff line up that 33 was actually age Jesus was crucified and so on. But on September 23rd, you have the perfect fulfillment of Revelation 12, where the woman is clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet, and she'll be pregnant with all of these constellations, Mercury, Mars, Venus, all coming together, Jupiter being in the womb of the woman, and now you've got this comet coming into the same thing. It's going to enter the same path that the moon has. I mean, it's just mind-boggling, and I think it's fascinating because it really does help to bring up dialogue, to bring up questions. Are we living in the end days and so on? And hey, I have no idea. I mean, I kind of just try to wake up now with every day, to try to do something good for somebody, to try to bless somebody, to try to, be a blessing to people, which is what hopefully you're trying to do yourself. And look around, they're hurting people. Like it said that I'm looking at some notes here. It says there'll be nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Kingdom and kingdom could be ethnic clashing. It could be, you look at the United States, it's kind of divided in, different camps. You've got, people it's getting the divide is getting much larger, of good and bad. What in the Bible says that what people will used to call good will now be called evil, and what is evil will now be called good. That's playing out easily. You can see that all over the news. You can see all that. You can see some of the lying. You can see some of the crazy stuff out there. But it doesn't say that we're supposed to be fearful. As a Christian, it doesn't say we're supposed to be fearful. Now, if you're watching this, you're not saved, you're not a Christian, you never called on the name of Jesus, it's not that hard. You just call on the name of Jesus. Say, Jesus, I don't know what I'm doing. I've been a sinner. Help me, save me. And that's how easy it is. Okay. Now there's some cool things you can learn to make it, your walk on earth a little easier. But when you understand that the Bible says that you do not war against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, you start to really understand that God, there's a war going on in the heavenlies that we cannot see. There's heaven, there's demonic forces, and there's angelic forces that are continually clashing. We have been given authority to do works on the earth. Jesus himself said, hey, go out, preach the good news of the kingdom to all the people before he gets here, okay? Because he wants to pack heaven. He doesn't want to pack hell. He wants to pack heaven. The devil wants to get control. That's why the devil tries to manipulate people. He tries to literally, he's just controlling spirit is what he really is. And we are called to be light. We're called to be light. We're called to help people and be good and show the goodness of God. Not judgmental, not putting, everybody's guilty of sin. Everybody's fallen from grace and so on. But you can be saved. You can follow these good things and get some blessings here. But hey, anyhow, I got to wrap this up because I'm going to be keeping rambling on here. But if you've watched this to this point, or you've rewatched or whatever, like I said, I'm going to put some links below here or even above here that you can check out and watch some of these guys. One of my favorite ministers is a guy named Steve Cioccolanti, who's actually a minister out of Australia, which is kind of cool to see his perspective on the United States and what he shows and whatever. And he's probably one of the most thorough, well-done guys that puts these videos out there on biblical prophecy. And he's not predicting anything or anything like that, but he's really, really cool. And his name's fun to say, Cioccolanti. It's just cool to say and so on. But anyhow, hey, I appreciate you if you watched this, if you got something out of it. Put some stuff down below. It says, great job or love this stuff or whatever. Maybe make a comment, maybe make something down there that share the video if you can, let people see it, just to kind of open up dialogue. Maybe this is something that your friends have been asking about. But look it up. August 21st, solar eclipse coming across the United States, traveling across 3 of the biggest fault lines in there. And if you look at history, a lot of times history will kind of give you a prediction of what's going to happen in the future. You're going to see, hey, Mike, you're going to see that there were some pretty significantly brutal things that happened during solar eclipses when they traveled over the United States and so on. And it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. So thanks, Tim. I appreciate that. Good job. I thank you very much. But anyhow, I'll tell you what, the Lord has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. And don't forget Psalm 91, probably one of the best Bible verses out there. If you need help dial 911, Psalm 91:1. 911. That's an easy way to remember it. It says that those who dwell in the secret place of the Almighty will rest, or those who dwell in the secret place of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. This is basically where the Bible verse that talks about calamity, but you are protected from it. If you call on the name of the Lord, He can protect you from these things that will be coming to pass. And there will be a lot of people that, regardless of the signs, regardless of all the preaching, regardless of all these things, are going to continue to dismiss it, think it's folklore, think it's crazy, and so on. And it's sad to say, but that's just the way it is. And some people are going to choose that path, and some people are not. Some people are just going to go, you know what? I think I might err on the side of caution and probably call on the name of Jesus. So I don't end up smelling like smoke for all eternity. But anyhow, thank you very much for being on here. Appreciate the kind words everybody's saying down here. Again, share this video if you can. Like it, comment on it below. And I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll get some more videos out on here just like it. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the other side.